Hey guys, so today we are going to answer the question, we're going to answer a subscriber question. And the question in question was, Fredrik, how important is it to be self-critical as a software developer? So let's get into it. Well, I will say that I think that that's a fairly important thing. It's just one aspect of having a self-evaluation process and check your own value system on a continuous basis. And I think that is probably one of the most important things you can do as a software developer and as a human overall. If you want to improve yourself and grow as a human being, doing self-reflection is fairly vital. And I think that it's probably even more important than most other industries to do that in software development, because the thing about software development is that it's a very chaotic ecosystem. I mean, what's true today may not be true tomorrow. And today we're doing something that is considered to be best practice, and tomorrow that's going to be something else. And something coming up today that everybody claims is going to be the next big, super awesome thing, it's going to be gone in a week. And because of all this chaos, and because, it is a chaotic environment, I think that having a process for checking what you know and evaluating the way that you are working continuously and figuring out where your weaknesses and your strengths lie and knowing yourself is a fairly vital part in order for you to survive in this chaotic ecosystem. I mean, have you ever thought about why this chaos is the way it is? I mean, why this industry looks the way it is? Have you ever thought about how it is that it seems that nobody can really give you a straight answer when you're asking, okay, what should I learn? And what are the requirements to be a backend developer or front-end developer? I mean, you have all this diversity and this massive amount of different requirements, different perspectives, different people. I mean, people are using the same words to describe different things. I mean, one person says something, they mean one thing, and then the next person says the same thing and they mean something else. It's very, very hard to make sense of all of this chaos. You kind of learn it, but it is tricky. And honestly, I think that it has to do, that chaos has to do with the fact that even the industry itself doesn't actually know exactly how to write perfect and good software. I mean, there are no standards, there are no best practices. It's a very young field. It's a very young profession to be a programmer in comparison to a lot of other fields. And maybe in the future we will have a more solid understanding of the requirements, and we will standardize things even more. But right now it's a fairly chaotic process. So I personally think that if you want to be a relevant developer who can kind of weather all these different trends and the storms and kind of to keep yourself relevant, I think that you really need to be self-critical. You really need to ask yourself, to have that personal insight, to look at the way of working and your value system and ask whether or not what's productive and what's not productive. Because, I mean, to take an easy thing, if you think that as an example, if you think the best practices in functional programming is the best thing that is around, but you're never getting hired for anything and all you're getting is a lot of criticism from your coworkers and from your employers, then maybe you really need to reevaluate whether or not your values is this really productive? Is the issue everybody else, or is it you and your work processes? Same thing goes for people who have discovered that they became irrelevant. Maybe you really love working in some specific way, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and hey, it's hard to find a job. And I will argue that in order for you to avoid, at least I feel this way. I think that for me, it feels very easy to kind of keep up with all these trends and figure everything out, because I would like to think that I have a fairly good self-evaluation process or a self-reflection, and being very self-critical has helped me do that. You have to you're never done. You're never going to be done. You're never going to learn at all. So it's important for you to really have that self-reflection, to be self-critical and really ask whether or not, to make it obvious to yourself, to know yourself, if you will. I mean, to figure out what are you good at and what are you bad at? What value systems do you have? Because I'm pretty sure that you have your own quirks, you have your own preferences and so forth, and some of them may not even be in line with what seems to be the best career option. Then you have to, of course, answer yourself if you think that you're like getting as far as possible within programming is the most important thing to you, or if you're more of an idealist and you like to push certain ideas more than other ideas, regardless of whether or not they're popular. That's a personal choice. But I do think that it's important. It's very important that you have a self-reflection process and you are self-critical, because I can promise you that you have flaws just as everybody else. I have flaws. Everybody has flaws. I might have more than most, but at least being aware of them and being honest with yourself makes them actionable, and that's the thing that is important. If you are if you kid yourself into thinking that you can't be improved or that you don't have to improve, you've already lost. Because unless you can actually identify where your flaws are, you can't act upon them. And just as this industry keeps on moving forward, so should you. So what I want you to take away from this is that I think it's absolutely critical for you to be self-critical, have a self-evaluation process, and really be honest with yourself. Maybe there are things that you are avoiding because you're not so good with them, or maybe there are things that you're dismissing because they're foreign to you. Really, really ask yourself whether or not these values are the most productive ones for you, because trust me, regardless of how you feel, the industry it's a bunch of chaos at this point. It can go any way at almost any point, and you have one or two options. Either you try to weather out the trends, or you just ignore them and weather them, if you will, or you follow along. That's a choice you have to make, but it's very important for you to at least be aware of your own limitations so that you can act upon them. Have a great day.